All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Orange, Connecticut Zoning Board of Appeals, our meeting of August 2nd, 2021. To begin, I want to introduce the board members who are here physically and one remotely. To my right, we have Mr. Pat Panza. The speaker in the middle here is Mr. Matt Pickering, who's remote. Do you hear me, Matt? Matt?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Kathy Brady over here to the left, Greg Natalino to my left. My name's Noah Eisenhandler. Just a couple things before we begin. We do have a full quorum tonight. We have 5 members. Anything that appears before the board, any request, will require the approval of 4 members in order to pass. I want to apologize. Last month, we did not have a quorum, and I know that was a huge inconvenience, and you know, I can make some lame excuses, but that's not going to help at all, so we do apologize. And anything acted on this board must be recorded in the town hall for 1 year. It's valid for 1 year. What's going to happen is the applicant or the representative will come to the board, up to the front, to my right, introduce themselves, and make the presentation. After that, anyone else who wishes to speak in support of the variance will have an opportunity to speak. After that, anyone who wants to speak opposing the variance could come up and speak. And if there is opposition, the applicant or the representative will have a chance to rebut that opposition. Having said that, the first order of business is to ask the board members if they had the opportunity to review the minutes of June 7th, 2021, and if so, is there any motion to approve the minutes as written? Pat makes a motion to approve it. Greg, second. All in favor, say aye. Aye, it's approved. Also, I forgot to introduce. Oh, thank you, Matt.
We got
You
you.
have 3 ayes. We also have Bonnie Sayat right here, Deb Stonick right here, and Jack Desmerican. I hope I'm pronouncing our zoning officer here. Now, before, let me read the agenda. Notice is hereby given that the Orange Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a meeting on Monday, August 2nd, 2021 at 7 p.m. at the Orange Town Hall, 617 Orange Center Road, to conduct a public hearing on the following. It's petition number 1819 submitted by Robert and Tracy Borczek for property known as 658 Ridge Road. A variance of section 383-31B regarding maximum ground coverage has been requested. Now, there was another matter on petition number 1820, and Jack, that's been withdrawn or just
Correct.
off?
The petition on Ridge Road, 658 Ridge Road, has been officially withdrawn until they can get more information.
Okay, I'm sorry. I read the wrong one. Okay. The only one that's on, I'm sorry, is 1820. 1819, one I just read, that's off.
Correct.
Okay. So petition 1820, submitted by Thompson Catherine Dialuzzo, if I'm pronouncing that good enough, for property known as 43 Skyview Road, a variance of section 383-31B regarding maximum ground coverage has been requested. Application materials are on file at the Orange Zoning Office. A copy of this notice has been filed with the Orange Town Clerk, dated in Orange, Connecticut, this 20th day of July, 2021. Sincerely, Noah Eisenhandler, Chairman, Orange Zoning Board of Appeals. All right, so we're going to take up number 1820, but before we do that, I do want to just make a comment. I've been on the board 15 years now, and I'm sure most of you have known, I don't know if the public knows, that Rudy Miller passed. And yeah, about 2 weeks ago. And I met Rudy about 20 years ago when I went for a variance. And I go out of my house, and there's a guy in my backyard. And I had no idea who he was. And I had no idea why he was there. And then he explained to me, I applied for a variance, and he actually wanted to see what it was about. And I think he served 35 years. Is that right, Jack, 35?
Around there.
Yeah, and I read his obituary, and you learn a lot. He loved his town, and he did a lot for the town. He was a real character. We kidded him a lot, and technology wasn't his forte, but he was a good guy, and he served the town well, and he seemed to live a full life, and then just kind of melancholy not to see him there on the right, and it's unfortunate, but he lived a life. So I'm sure he's remotely listening to the meeting, but knowing Rudy probably had trouble getting on. So. Having said that, I'm going to call up petition number 1820 for the property known as 43 Skyview Road. Counsel, please identify yourself for the record.
I don't know if I should leave this on.
Could you take it off, because I can't understand what you're saying through the mask.
That doesn't necessarily mean you'll be able to understand it when I take the mask
You,
off.
Brian.
Struggle through it.
For the record, Mr. Chairman, I am Attorney Brian Stone, at the Pellegrino Law Firm, and I represent the applicants. And if you were right, I'm going to say it wrong because Thomas and Catherine Delizio, I represent them. They're the owners of 43 Skyview Road. And I want to digress for a minute. I did not know about Rudy, and I'm really saddened by that.
He was the character.
He was a character of the first order, but you're right. He did. He loved the town, and he drove me crazy here many a time. No question. But I'm very sad to hear that.
I'm saying 35 years. It might be
I'll have
45.
to look it up.
It's either 35 or 45 years.
Yeah, I'll send everybody an email after.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
The background of his knowledge of
Oh.
planning, it was pretty
it was very deep.
impressive.
Yeah, he was an urban planner.
Yeah.
I mean, that was his.
In different areas, different towns.
He was a character.
Well, to get on with the application. Now, with me tonight is Mr. Delizio. Mrs. Delizio had a conflict. She couldn't be here, but he's here to answer any questions you have. Also with me tonight is Doug Anderson. He's the contractor who's building the Delizio's home. He also was the developer and builder of Fieldstone Village. So he's either revered or hated around town, depending on which side of that coin you're on. But I think most people would say it's been positive for the town. The site at 43 Skyview Road is a lot, 62,203 square feet. It's in the residence zone. And this application's a little different than what you usually see because you have an application for a variance while a home is in the middle of construction. It creates a little bit of a challenge in doing maps, obviously. But I think we've covered it pretty well, and you get to see what's actually being built out there pretty well, I think, from the pictures that I submitted, and I think I submitted enough copies to circulate with the application for everyone. The house has the footprint's 5,033 square feet. If you took out the garage and the front patio, the living area is around 4,000 square feet in the house. It's a large house, obviously, but certainly it's very much in keeping with the property in that neighborhood on Skyview Drive. I went through all of the properties, the assessor's cards, which I'm going to submit. I didn't make copies of them all because
How many notices did you actually send out?
I didn't have to do them, but a lot. I had to do the whole condo project. So, you may want to consider petitioning the Planning and Zoning Commission to amend the regulations so that you only have to serve the association and not every member.
Yeah, sure work, never mind.
So, but the houses vary in size, and I'm looking for my notes. The house next door has almost 6,000 square feet of living area. There's a number of other houses, 5,000 square feet. There's some fours, some threes, and I'm talking about the living area, which is basically the gross square footage less basement, attic, garage, patios, porches, decks. And so what's the difference with this property with respect to those properties? Well, the difference is that my client wanted a large home, obviously. He wanted a one-story home. Both he and his wife have problems with their knees and going up and down stairs. They're getting older. They want a really nice home, and it will be a really nice home, that they can grow old in and not without discomfort. So they try to avoid stairs as much as they can. And so they want to build a ranch-style house. with one-story living, which this is. So that living area is all on one floor, at 4,000 square feet. As a result of that, as opposed to the house next door that has 5,600 square feet, I believe it is, they take up a lot more ground coverage area with the ranch-style house than you would with a colonial style, which is what predominates. In fact, I think all the houses are more of a colonial style home on Skyview. So what's the hardship? Well, I like to look at the statute and see what the statute requires that we show, Section 8-3. First, we have to show that what we're requesting is in harmony with the general purpose and intent in the regulations. And if you reviewed my application, I think I stated what that is. You know, purpose of bulk zoning regulations is to provide for uniformity, to provide for space, some open space, to provide for some environmental effects. And that's not the original purpose, obviously, but now we consider those as well. But in this case, we don't see how that's an issue. When you look at where this is located, if you look at picture 3, if you kept them in order, and I kept them in order, I think it's 3, it might be 5. There's the picture showing from the back of the house looking out to the rear. And what we face is a wall of building mass from Fieldstone Village. So we're certainly unique from the standpoint of that's not something that's typical to the town of Orange. It's typical to that street, perhaps, but certainly not to the residence zone in Orange that you're backing up on a large condominium project. Two, if you look at the second picture, which Mr. Panza's got in his hands right now, you'll see I described the house as being a U. It's a sharp U. But those two wings that are coming out from that picture, that's taken from the back of the house with the Fieldstone behind me, facing the house. That area between those two wings, that's where the proposed deck is. So from the standpoint of it having an impact that would be detrimental to the community or would be adverse to the intent of the regulations, that's just not the case. We have to show, obviously, hardship. Hardship's sometimes hard to show, but I think we have one here. I think we have a couple here. One is, and the reason for this application, in truth, is, which I actually didn't realize until I had further conversations with my client, who filed the application quickly, is that the reason that originally they were going to put a patio. A patio doesn't count against the ground coverage. The deck does. But they encountered high groundwater, so they had to raise the house, which requires them to have the whole purpose of their doing this is they are going to have a couple of steps that they wanted to avoid. Now, capital steps doesn't sound like much, and to me, it's not much, and I have bad knees too, but I can tell you, watching Mr. Elizio traverse some steps, it's meaningful to him. I haven't seen his wife walking up steps, but he tells me it's no different for her. So to explain that about the high groundwater, and the reason I asked Doug Anderson to come tonight was to just tell you about that and what had to be done as a result on account of that. Doug, could you come up? Just state your name and address for the record.
Doug Anderson from Anderson Wilcox, for the record. Helping Mr. Delizio build his home on Skyview. So when we were excavating, we set our grades for this house based on this kind of all one level living concept, which with zero entry from the garage to the house, keeping the house down to, towards grade. So utilizing the elevations we had, the requirements we had for the basement, as we got down into the hole, we encountered some groundwater there, which was probably not too far above ledge. So what we ended up doing is we ended up over excavating the house, putting crushed stone in at the water level and raising the home by about a foot in grade. So that brought the whole house up, created some issues with the backyards, and then trying to make access to the home, within that kind of one-step range, which what our goal was. We were able to still achieve that because we did have some elevation in the front. So we also have the covered porch there. So we'll have one step out of the house to the porch, and then one step to grade. So our original intent was to going out the back of the house where the deck area, or the outdoor space would be, was to have the grade at the house down to the patio, and then at grade. So by raising that up, now we've had to increase and we were able to pick up the rear yard a little bit. So we were able to actually, the 12 inches that we increased the home elevation, we were able to defer about 4 or 5 inches, so we could basically get it with one more step, another 7 inches. So, a design concept that we had was, well, instead of to put the deck there, we were able to kind of create the same situation that we have in the front of the home, one step out to a deck, a good 20 feet of flat area, and then one step down to the patio or pool area. So that becomes more of a transition versus a kind of a climbing of stairs, if you will. But unfortunately, because decks qualifies as coverage, where a paver patio or bluestone patio doesn't, that kicked us into our overage on square footage.
Is the high water table unique to that lot?
We
Is
ran
that-
into a little bit of water at Fieldstone and some of the homes in the back. Just what we've found up there is there's ledge underneath those hills, and we actually ended up blasting some of the rear units at Fieldstone. So I think, and as a matter of fact, not the house next door, but the house that they're building at the cul-de-sac down in the end, they ran into ledge, and they were hammering for about 2 weeks to get out. So it's there, but it's sort of just below the peripheral of where the bottom of the basement would be, but not exposed ledge or anything that would require like blasting for utilities or foundation. So that's sort of the dynamic that we got kind of pushed into, and sort of kind of an after the fact thing. So that's obviously why we're here today. So any questions I can?
Any questions? Matt?
I got one question. On that whole site, they did perk tests over there, is that correct?
Correct.
So in the perk test, none of this stuff showed up?
Perk tests, our
Hang on one
system.
second, guys. What's that?
If you're gonna speak, just
Oh, we got-
turn on the mic and then.
It is on. Oh, there it is. Sorry about that. In other words, from my understanding of that development, they did perk tests throughout that property, did
Correct.
they not?
We did, yes.
Okay,
Yep.
and at that level there, they went down about how deep?
So the system on this particular lot is to the north, on the low side of the lot, on the lower side of the lot. We actually, there was perk tests that were done years ago. Sanitarian had us come back, redo perks. We actually had to do perks for a second time because the modeling level was a little higher than he'd liked. We did not run into any groundwater on the septic area, but the deep tests on the septic area were probably no more than 7 or 8 feet.
Oh.
And when we obviously did the foundation, we were down 9, 10 feet. And that's
Right.
where we ran right into it at that
Okay.
point. Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you. Attorney Stone?
Thank you, Doug.
So then when you look at the statute, it talks about, and I quote, that you act so that substantial justice will be done and the public safety and welfare secured. So why do I think that we deserve this, that's substantial justice? Well, we're talking about this high above the ground level. The only place that might be able to see it is from Fieldstone Village, but I doubt it. Fieldstone Village, the first houses that you hit, the back of those houses are 100 feet away from the property line. And then this is over 100 feet from there. So we're talking a couple of 100 feet to look at a deck that would be, I don't know, 10 inches off the ground, 7 inches off the ground versus a patio. I don't see how you could discern a difference if you could see it at all. Having said that, I'd ask that the commission approve this request for a variance, and I'm certainly happy to answer any questions you might have of me.
Any questions?
I have one question, if I may.
Sure.
This would be the only house at this point, that would have a deck versus a patio, is that correct?
Oh, no, that's definitely not true. There's many decks in the neighborhood.
Okay, at the same level as what this is now?
The decks in the neighborhood are at a higher level. They're a
Okay.
much higher level.
That's what I thought. But the actual patios are all masonry, a patio per se?
Right,
Okay, so this would be in lieu of the patio?
correct. In lieu of that section of the patio, there'll still
Right.
be a patio extended beyond that.
Right.
Matt, can you hear us?
Matthew? We lose it?
Yeah, everything's coming through great, Noah.
Okay. I won't lose you. Okay, any other questions for Attorney Stone? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Not at this time, nope.
All right. Anybody else wish to speak in support of the application? Support, in favor of it? Don't be shy. Yes, ma'am. You just have your name and address, please.
I'm Anna Marie Goldberg, 175 Sunrise Hill Circle, Fieldstone Village. I'll be the house, my husband Ron Goldberg and I have lived in Orange since 1979. 38 years by the ball field on Tallman Road, and 5 years now at Fieldstone Village. When I got the note about the meeting tonight, that was back in a month ago, I was surprised to find that it was going to be Tom DeLuzio moving behind me. I had not seen him in 20 years. We were in a Corvette club together, and in 2000, that's when he joined his wife Kathy and
Is this a good
himself.
thing or a bad thing?
Pardon?
Is this a good thing that you're in the club together or a bad thing? Okay.
So they
Make sure I know
joined
which way this is going.
in 2000, and they were still there till 2005, but I kind of dropped out after a while. I had been in it a long time, but my husband still is in it today. And they were very wonderful members, and I'll be right behind them. I'm very happy at Fieldstone Village. I have a big garage and a generator that's going to abut. That's the only view he's going to see from his swimming
I
pool.
don't think he's complaining. All right, so you're in support of it, ma'am?
I'm supportive of
Okay.
him because I feel like it's a deja vu moment. I mean, if you don't see somebody in 20 years and now they're here, this is important.
Does anybody have a 63 split window for sale?
I have a 72.
I'm looking for a 63 split
I
window.
have a 61. And Ronnie, who's going to be 90 next year, he bought 10 years ago, a 2012, and he's looking now, if he gets to 90, for another Corvette.
So we'll put that on the record. That's part of the record. All right, thank you, ma'am. Anyone else wish to speak in favor of the applicant? In favor. All right, is there any opposition? You want,
I'm not going to speak in opposition, but I would like to express my concerns.
please do. Just identify yourself, sir, for the record.
Yes. My name is Raphael D'Ambroso.
Could you spell your last name for me, please?
Sure, it's D as in David, apostrophe, capital A, Dombaroso. Dombaroso,
Thank you.
okay?
What's your address, sir?
Pardon me?
Your address?
612 Derby Avenue, Orange. Okay?
The floor is yours.
Okay. As I said, I'm not speaking in opposition to this, but I do have some concerns for the zoning commission, which I would like to air at this point.
We're the zoning board of appeals, not the planning and zoning.
Well, zoning, whatever.
Okay.
I'm here. When the project was proposed for the village and the additional houses, which was, I would say, roughly 15 years ago. Is that about right? People who've been here long, about 15 years ago. We had the meeting up in the big hall and everybody talked. And then we came down here. I expressed concerns about water. And I was assured by the civil engineers who conducted the project that with the recontouring of the land, that it would certainly improve my situation, that I would not get any water, rather than create a problem for me. I was skeptical. However, I was wrong, because there was, I would say, approximately a 5 to 7 year interim between those meetings when I was assured there would be no water problem and the building of the house at 46 Skyview Lane, or whatever the name is. An interim of 7 years. During those 7 years, I did not have any water on my property whatsoever. So the engineers were right, and I was wrong in being skeptical. However, with the commencement of the building at 46 Skyview Drive, I found silt in my water system, which included my hot water heater and my toilet bowls, a black silt. So much so that I had to replace the water heater. I still have some of the black silt in the upper containers of the toilet because it was impossible to get it completely cleaned out. In any case, that started me worrying. Then I noticed that in a heavy rain, a small pond of water was forming on the west side of my house. A pond, I would say, about 15 feet long and maybe 10 feet wide and maybe an inch or two deep. And it was coming into my basement, not flooding the basement, but leaving water in the corners and in the low spots. Now, as I say, I had never had any water during those 7 years between the proposing of the project and the building of the house at 46 Skyview Road. But then I started having water issues, which I'm still having now. I can't say that I've gotten any more silt because I haven't. But I have, every time it rains, a pond, little pond there on the west side of my house. And I'm concerned about this. I don't want to see it get worse. I don't want to see it get worse. There are currently 2 houses in the process of being built on the west side of the road, the ranch house that you alluded to, and another rather high house, and 2 in the process of being built on the east side of the road. One has already been completed. That's the one at 46, and there's another one in the process of being built. And I'm very concerned about the fact that I'm getting water when I was assured that I would not, even though I didn't get it for 7 years. But I suspect that with each building that's built, the ground is recontoured, whether it's to put in a septic system or a swimming pool or whatever it is. The ground is being recontoured, so it's no longer the way the original civil engineers described it would be when they made their presentation of approximately 15 years ago. So I'm not here to oppose this project. If I understand, you're talking about a patio.
Patio versus deck, in essence.
Patio.
Patio versus deck.
A patio.
Patio versus a deck. They want to put a deck on. The regulations allows them to put a patio on.
Okay.
And I'm not a builder.
Now,
but
I also heard
probably better for the owner.
somewhere there was talk of a swimming pool.
Well, I believe they're putting a pool. The plan show a pool.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't know how that affects the contours of the land.
I don't either, sir.
Well, I'm not a civil engineer, so I don't know. All I know is that for 7 years I didn't have any water when there weren't any houses being built, and now I have water. And that's what I'm here to express my concerns about. I don't oppose this project. I'm not here to, create a problem. I'm just here to explain my position in all of this. I am concerned. And so I appreciate your giving me the opportunity to express that
It's
concern.
understandable. Now, you understand we're here as a board. Our job is if the strict enforcement of the zoning laws in Orange would work a hardship on this particular piece of property, not this person, it doesn't really matter who the person is, on this property. Is a property unique in that the strict application of the zoning laws would cause a hardship. So, under the zoning laws, he's allowed 10% coverage. The house, if he had a deck, that's all counts into that equation. But he wants to put a patio, he wants to put a deck on, which counts to the equation. He can put a patio on, but he wants to put a deck on. By putting that coverage on, it bumps it up to, I think, 10.8%. So he's asking for quite frankly, a very small variance. And I'm not dismissing your concerns. If I was living there, I'd be very concerned for what you're saying. But this is not the forum to address that. I would contact, get someone to get out there and look at it and figure out what's going on.
Well, I tried to do that, but I run up against a lot of,
Indifference.
yes.
Well, other than that's the only suggestion I would have for you, sir.
I mean, I tried to do that when 46 was just starting, and I found the silt in my hot water tank and in my toilets. But it was a deaf ear.
I can't give you legal advice, but
Yeah,
I understand.
yeah. I mean,
appreciate you coming
this
up.
was the first opportunity I've had
that's
to
fine.
express my concerns, and that's why I'm here.
you have the developer
I'm
here.
not here to oppose the project at
I
all.
understand.
If I could end by giving you a short anecdote. On Saturday, I received a phone call from a friend of mine who said that a girlfriend of hers, a lady friend of hers, had lost her cat. And the lady friend, was wondering if she could come on my property. She lived in the condominiums, in the Fieldstone. She was wondering if she could come on my property to look for her cat. I said, of course. She came on my property and introduced herself as Cheryl. I don't remember her last name. And we had a nice conversation. Unfortunately, she couldn't find her cat, and she was very disappointed. But we did have a conversation, and she said, "How long have you been living here?" I said, "Since 1955. I said, "My parents built this house, and I grew up in this house and went away to school, etc., but this has always been home to me." She said, "Gee, that's nice." She said, "What was it like before all this was built?" And I said, "Well, it was a cornfield for the first 50 years. She said, "It must have been beautiful." I said, "It was." She said, "Do you miss it?" I said, "Of course." She said, "Do you resent the people who moved in?" I said, "Absolutely not. I do not resent them because I've lived here long enough to see the number of projects that were proposed for that piece of property. Commercial projects which included a supermarket, a nursing home, and several odious other ideas. So I'm quite happy that people are living in that property, and I welcome them to that property. I have no objection. I miss the cornfield, but I certainly think that the property is being well used to house human beings. So I have no objection there, and I'd like to be a good neighbor to the people. But I do have concerns about the
I
water.
understand. Any update on the cat?
No update on the cat as far as I know.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else wish to speak in opposition or neutral on the project? Or anybody, Attorney Stone, if you want to rebut, I don't know if that warrants a rebuttal, but if you're interested in saying anything else.
I do have one comment.
All right, please come up. We'll count that as a semi-opposition.
And it addresses his concern, actually.
You got to take the mask off, Brian.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
I'm so used to it. Actually, I've gotten not used to it, and I'm trying to get used to it again, which is terrible. In any event, yeah, you know, one of the things I mentioned is one of the purposes of bulk regulations is environmental. Well, this is the reverse of that. A patio is allowed, which creates impervious surface.
Yeah.
The deck will have crushed stone under it, so there will be no water flowing off the site from that covered area. So, from that standpoint, I hope that makes you feel better about our application, because that was it.
All right, thank you, Attorney Stone. I'm sorry, any questions to Attorney Stone?
No.
All right, there's a motion to close the meeting.
I make a motion.
That makes the motion. Greg seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You know, it is a unique piece of property. It is a very small.
Yeah, and it's
variance.
tucked between it's U-shaped, tucked.
Yeah, it's not going to have any visual effect whatsoever. Matt, do you have anything to say?
No, it's pretty cut and dry, guys.
All right, is there a motion to approve the variance as requested?
I make a motion to approve it as submitted.
Okay, Pat makes a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
No, we'll let Kathy. Kathy seconds it? All right, Deb, you want to?
Kathy?
Yeah.
Greg?
In
Yeah.
favor.
Yeah, yes would be in favor.
Pat?
Yes.
Matt? Matt?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes. All right, you're all set.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other business before the
Maybe the
board?
developer could talk to the homeowner. There you go.
All right.
Thank you.
Any more business? Motion to close?
I make a motion to
Pat makes
close.
the motion. Kathy will let you make the second. All right, we are closed. Thank you all very much. And
Thank you, everyone.
it's the first meeting without Rudy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.